Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lower Sixth Assembly from January 2022. There were quite a few people missing from Assembly this morning for all sorts of very good reasons, self-isolating or actually ill with the dreaded death plague. And so I wanted to record the stuff that I said because I really think it's quite important. And I don't really want anybody to miss it. So, without further ado, let's get on with what we were talking about this morning. Assembly, bit of a lame gag there, but at the same time, I hope what we're doing here is we're starting a process. We're starting a process that ultimately is going to lead to you applying to university. This is the official start of the UCAS 2023. Cycle. So we are hitting go on your university applications. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm not really going to talk about Unifrog too much because you should already know it. You should all be out there using it, and I know most of you are. So that's really good news. And then a little bit about Burns Night, and that's it. So, okay, let's crack on. So, where are you going to go to a university? Now, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the what, the where, and the how. And the point I want to make from the get-go is this: the single most important thing here is the what, the subject choice. This is what should drive everything else. We don't want people saying, well, I want to go to Newcastle or I want to go to Exeter because for whatever reason, and then trying to find a subject that allows you to go there. That's not it. What we want here is a subject that's going to get you up on a cold morning and get you into the library or get you into the lecture hall. A night out in Newcastle or a fun time in Exeter is not going to do that. What needs to happen here is that you find a subject that is going to inspire you and drive you through 3 years of pretty intense academic study. And so it has to be a subject that you really, really enjoy, a subject that really fires you, because that's the only thing that's going to get you up. That's what's going to help you write your personal statement. And that's a very, very tricky thing that we'll be talking about later on in the year. So think about if you could only do one subject for the rest of your life, and what would that be? And then that would become the subject, and that becomes the focal point around which everything else in your application moves. So the what is the most important bit. After that, we can talk about the where. Sorry, I don't know quite what's happened to the format there. But you need to decide first, what type of university do you want to go to? Now, the universities in the UK broadly split into one of two different types. You can either have the research universities or you can have the teaching universities. Now, in a research university, what that essentially means is that you're dropped in there, you're given a reading list, and you're told to get on with it. Now, if that's what you like, if you're a very strong, self-motivated learner, then you're going to love that. So that's the sort of thing that happens at Oxford. So Oxford or Cambridge, you're given a reading list and say, right, I'll see you in the week. Make sure you're ready. There's no support. There's very, very little academic support that's going on. Yes, you can go to lectures. Yes, you can go to seminars. But essentially, that's you on your own. And that's Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, LSE, all of your Russell Group universities. You're expected to do the bulk of the work by yourself. Then we've got teaching universities, and these are perhaps a gentler approach to it. There's a lot more hands-on teaching. You've got classes. You'll perhaps have a little more teacher time. It'd be big classes for sure. You're not at school anymore. But there's a lot more in terms of structured learning in what we would call a teaching university. And those tend to be the smaller, more up-and-coming universities. Sometimes those are ideal for your particular subject, and certainly some of the newer tech-driven stuff that's going to be driven in. That's going to be taught extremely well away from the Russell Group and in different, more teaching universities. But again, this is all out there for you to explore. Now, where do you want to go? Well, north, south, east, west. The country is entirely up to you. The one thing I will say at this point is I always advise against going to London, and I advise against going to London for 4 reasons. First of all, it's incredibly expensive, so that may or may not be an issue. Second, it can be very, very lonely. It can be a lonely place. It might seem odd, a city of 15 million people. How can you be lonely? Well, you just sort of slip between the cracks. And I was talking to somebody, one of the student support officers from Queen Mary, and she said that loneliness is a real problem on that particular campus. In London universities, I think in general, because it is so big, you can just disappear. Which brings me to the third point. The third reason why I would advise against going to university in London, because it does dilute that student experience. London's an amazing place, but you are competing for so much oxygen. You don't get that concentrated student experience that you would get in a campus university, whether it's Warwick, or Heriot-Watt or Sussex or whatever it is, even down to Oxford, Cambridge. You get a much more concentrated student experience, and that obviously brings with it its own benefits, its own drawbacks for sure, but you're not competing with a huge city like London. And the fourth reason why I advise against going to London is because you're going to go there at some point anyway. Probably your life is going to take you to London. It's highly unlikely it's going to take you to Aberystwyth or to York or to Manchester or to Glasgow or Bangor. And you can go to some great universities in some really, really nice parts of the UK, or indeed the world. So yeah, what about outside the UK? Every year we get a few people applying to the USA and a handful also to the EU. I think there's some very, very good universities on the continent, particularly in the Netherlands. The university colleges are very, very strong. If you haven't already identified yourself as someone who's thinking along those lines, if you are thinking along those lines, then please do identify yourself to Ms. Gunther-Jones as soon as possible if you haven't already. I know a few of you are already talking to her, and that's fantastic. So yes, this requires a bit more planning than goes into the UK. So a bit more work to do, but obviously some very, very interesting options for you off the back of that. And then how do we build the qualifications? Well, this is where everything comes together. You're going to have academic requirements, as you can see there. Then you need to talk about your thinking skills. Are you developing your thinking skills? How are you honing your thinking skills over the next year or so? And then work experience. Now, all work experience is good. Sometimes it's expected and sometimes it's mandatory. The ones with mandatory work experience, you're looking at medicine, legal careers, engineering, architecture, maybe one or two others. But those ones you'll be expected to present work experience. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that right now, but it's very, very important. And yeah, you're going to have to do that. So that's what goes into the application. In terms of resources to help you, well, in-house, we've got a load of stuff. The VLE, there's a huge amount of stuff on the VLE, and I will link off to that when I send the email around. And Unifrog, again, fantastic resource. You should all be signed up on that, definitely already. And of course, the university websites, those are all up there. And over the lockdown, when everything shifted online, universities really, really raised their online game. So there's a lot of good stuff now online from the universities. Human intelligence is always the best form of intelligence, and you've got your tutor, you've got your heads of year, you've got the upper six, you've got all these people who you can ask. Now, your tutor might not be an expert in the subject that you want to study. That's not a problem. They'll be able to point you in the direction of people who are. So we've got a huge resource and a huge repository of information and experience in the staff body. So your job is to go out and find it. We're not going to come and find you. You need to go out and find it. And then outside in the real world, well, open days, you get to skip school for 2 days in the sixth form to go to open days. By the way, if you think you're just going to go on a pub crawl around Oxford Brookes, that's not going to happen. We will see when these groups of students that emerge and you're going to go off on a jolly. That's not going to happen, so don't even try. So what we will do is we will let you go to an open day when we can see that there's real benefit in it for you. There is a process, again, that's all described on the VLE, so do look at that. And again, human intelligence, there's lots of it out there. Speak to family, speak to friends, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, whoever it is. Ask people. You'd be surprised how willing they are to talk about their time at university. And in terms of going to visit universities, the very best time to do that is during half term. During the summer, everyone goes, so the university is just empty, and so you can't get a very good sense for it. I strongly advise that this half term coming up, that you go along to the universities you want to check out, and do the same again in the summer term. Even in the summer term, a lot of the universities have shut down. So yeah, this half term is the very best time to go and visit a university to get a feel for what a university town is genuinely like. Here's your timeline. So Unifrog is live. The other thing I think you should be doing at this point is to make sure that you get onto the UCAS hub. I'll link off to that again in the description on this website. And yeah, start the process. Get thinking about it. On the 20th of January, we'll have the University of Edinburgh coming in. Katrina Henderson is going to present an online talk about applying to university in general and applying to Edinburgh in particular. And we'll have more events following after that. when we come back in the summer term, after half term, I'll have you all in a room and we will complete a large chunk of your UCAS statement. And we'll have all sorts of careers and university advice around that as well. And then hopefully by Michaelmas half term, all of your applications will be away and you'll all be sitting down waiting for the offers to come in. The offers will be coming in this time next year. But what we really, really want to do is to make sure that all of your university applications are filed before half term. That's a really, really easy thing to do. It makes your life easier because that's out of the way. You don't need to worry about that. But the only way that's going to happen is if we start this process now. We start thinking about it, we start putting those bits in place, and we start building towards that final application. So here we go. Speak to your tutor, get on Unifrog, get on UCAS, start gathering the information, and then make that plan. And then that means that by the time we get to this time next year, all your UCAS statements are in, and you're just sitting back watching the offers coming flooding back from the universities. That's about it really from the university side of things. I will mention Burns Night. This is coming up on the 28th of Jan. It's not quite as violent as that picture makes it look, but it is a fantastic fun night for all the family. It's an absolute scream. If you haven't reeled, then you haven't lived. You can't just rock up and get stuck in. You need to do some practice, otherwise you'll look a bit silly. So do get in touch, please, with Miss Reinhold. Book yourself in for a few sessions. We're not going to have much chance for practice before we get to Burns Night. So do please look into this now and get your reeling trousers on. You're going to have a huge amount of fun. And that was it. There was something else, but I really can't remember what it was. So I'm just going to shut up. I'll probably put it in the email, but I hope that helps. The UCAS process, the university application process starts now, starts watching this video, starts with assembly this morning. I hope all is well. Do ask me if you've got any questions. Speak to your tutor, speak to everybody, and everything will be absolutely fabulous. Take care now, and all the very best. Bye.